Hey guys, Cawbeertv, and we're doing our Ancient Wilds deck play testing guide. I did want to get this up a couple of days ago, but I was busy over the weekend working and stuff. And also I've done a few different carnations of this deck, testing it obviously. And the last one I played a couple of games and got owned. I'll probably upload the ones I played against the goblins, because well, they're hilarious. I just get absolutely smashed. But this is the current form. So I'll run through it. So first of all, first card we're running is Yoraga Wall Caller, I don't even know, or Joraga War Caller. He's an elf, he's a multi-kicker, he's cost 1, but if you kick him, all your other elf get +1/+1. I think it's a handy creature to have in the deck. It just toughens up all your weaker creatures, which are generally the elves, so I kind of keep him in there. Moving on, Elvish Visionary, 2 cost, you drop this card, you draw a card. Bulk of your early play, so I run all 3 of these bad boys. One card I'm still debating, the Fuana Shaman. Discard a creature card from your hand and swap it for another one. This can be handy, but it's very slow, because you're casting this turn 2, so turn 3 you can discard a creature. But then you're not, if you're discarding it for something big, you're not going to be able to cast it till turn 4, if you see what I mean. So it's a little bit clunky. But I'm keeping it in there because it can help you out. You can keep it in your hand and then maybe late game drop it down, sack a small creature, bring in something big, blah blah blah. So I'll keep running that. Mar Thornweld Archer, Elf Archer, 2/1, Death Touch and Reach, one of the ways to take in care of flyers. Also remember, both these people are elves, so they get the bonus from the Walker. Our kill cards. One of the big grumps I've got about this deck is this is the only way you can destroy creatures and items as such, with the exception of the spider that I'll get to later on, but this is the only way. So beast token, you destroy a creature and put a 3/3 beast token on. Now in the previous incarnation with the tree folk, this was okay because you put a 3/3 on the opponent's side and you were like, I've got tree folk, they're all like massive anyway. Dungrove's out, he's a 5/5 because I got 5 lands, blah blah. In this format it's really concerning because putting a 3/3 on the opposite side is not the best. A lot of your creatures don't have 3 in the back, so it's kind of frustrating you're really kind of debating, God, do I really want to kill that and put a 3/3 on their side? So it's one of my gripes, but you have to run them, it's your kill card, so I run all 3 of them. Next card, Caller of the Claw, your elf, another elf creature, he's 2/2, he's got flash, and whenever a creature, a non-token creature, dies, when he enters the battlefield you put a 2/2. So say you swing in, he blocks with 2, kills 2 of your creatures, you flash this boy in, and you get 2/2 bears tokens and this guy. I run him, he's an interesting card, he's a 3 cost, it's mostly the costs and everything why I run him, or her, I suppose, because it does look like a woman, but anyway, we run one of them. Next card, one of our big cards, you draw a card when he's cast, and it's a 2/5 defender, so it can't swing in, but it's a good blocker, and it's a 2/5 for 3, so we run that as well. One of the best cards in the deck, the Eternal Witness. When the Eternal Witness enters a battlefield, you can go into your graveyard and take any card you want back to your hand. Really good card. Gotta be careful casting this. You want to make sure that you're getting something good out your graveyard. But the good thing is with this deck, if you're using the portal, you can ping this back to your hand and keep going into your graveyard and getting cards. Good card. Next card, one of the new cards, the Spawn Rith. It's a trample 2/2, but whenever it deals damage to an opponent, it puts a copy of itself onto the battlefield. So the 2/2 trample is really good because he has to block with something 2 in the ass, otherwise you make yourself. So if he blocks with a 2/1, then you kill the 2/1 and get a token of this card, which is exactly the same, so you get the creature back. If he lets in, you've got 2 of these in the battlefield. If they both swing in next turn and hit, then you're going to have 4 on the battlefield. Just kind of multiplier, really good annoying card that they have to deal with. I'm only currently running the 2 Wood Elves. Go into your, cast this card, search your forest for a library, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your deck. 3 cost 1/1. I'm running, you could run the 3, but I run 2, only because on turn 3, you don't really want to be casting too many of these. If you've got 3 in these in your hand, you're going to be a bit sad. It's only a 1/1. I mean, it does get, as I said, it's an elf, so it gets the boost with the wall color, but I run 2 of them. Because if as you get later in the game, you should have maybe a portal out and you can start pinging them back to your hand. Moving on, I do run the Ambassador Oak. It's not the greatest card, it's a 4 cost 3/3, but you also drop a 1/1 elf, and it's the 3/3 I'm running it for. I just think with this deck, if you don't run this and you're swapping it, you want something in this deck that's 3/3 power, especially in this kind of sort of, in these key turns, the sort of I'd say the 3, 4, 5 and 6 turns are your key turns with this deck. It's when it's basically shaping up for its endgame, and these are just good stallers and just good creatures to have on the battlefield for people to deal with. That's why I run them. Moving on, I run one of the erratic portals, tap it and spend 1 power and return a creature to its hand unless it pays 1 power. So if your opponent's got no mana, you can tap a creature of his back to his hand if you want, or generally you'll be tapping your own creatures back to your hand and then recasting them to get bonuses, as I've said before. Moving on, the next one of the brilliant cards, Natural Order, 4 cost, sacrifice the creatures on the battlefield and replace it with any creature from your library. Really good card. It means turn 4 you can get one of your big dudes out straight away. Really good against the goblins, slowing the goblins down, except in the games that you'll see when I post them up, but I just get crushed. But still a really strong card, so I run both of them. Vengefine, another great card in the deck, 4 cost, 4/3 with haste, so when it comes in it can swing in. But one of the best things, if you cast 2 creature cards from in a turn, this returns from the graveyard to the battlefield. So you cast, maybe you've got the two of these 3 small dudes, cast both of them and back the Vengefine's back on the battlefield. Also really against the mill deck. If you think about the mill deck mills you early on and both of them are in the graveyard, then you could cast 2 small cards by turn 4, then all of a sudden you've got 2 4/3s on the battlefield as well. Really good card. I'm currently running the Wolfbriar Element, just because it's a 4 cost, 4/4, but you can also multi-kick it and get yourself a lot of green wolves. Late on, turn 8, if you draw this, it's a good card. You're just putting power on the battlefield. It's basically about putting power on the battlefield with this guy. Sometimes it'll be useless and you'll probably not cast it. You might, be like, oh, I'll cast that next turn and then something else comes up. But I just think it's a handy card to have in the deck. Yeva's Natural Herald, or basically your legendary creature, Elf Shaman. She also gets a plus bonuses from the Walker. She's only a 4 cost, flash 5/5, and she means all your spells can then be cast with flash. This is where I start to have problems with the deck, because I don't use this to its best ability. I keep forgetting that I can cast my cards with flash when she's on the battlefield, and I think that's part of this deck, and it's this unique trickery with that. So I'm still practicing on that, but she's a good card. I currently run only one of the Acid Slimes. It's also a good card, but it's a 5 cost 2/2, which that's where I dropped the other 2 for. It does have Death Touch and it can destroy land, artifact, or enhancement. So you can ping it back to your hand and destroy another one, but that's why I run only one, because there's a lot of ways of getting this creature out, as I said, with a Natural Order, etc, etc. So I run one because I think one's enough. Our Overrun, obviously, all your creatures get trampled to the end of turn and +3. I currently run one of the Sting Fling Spiders. This is one of your ways of dealing with the flyers as with the archers. It's a 2/5, 5 cost, but when it enters a battlefield it kills a flyer. So they've got a flyer on, you drop this dude, it's dead. Can be quite handy. No, don't take that out. Moving on, I'm running 2 of the Thrag Tusks. Good card as well, 5 cost, it comes on the battlefield, you get 5 life, and when it leaves the battlefield it puts a 3/3 token on. I believe even if this is exiled off the battlefield, it still leaves a 3/3 token on. Don't hold me to that, but because I'm just been reading it, it just says when it leaves the battlefield. So if it gets exiled, it's leaving the battlefield, so I still think you put a 3/3 token on. I'm not sure, I've never seen it happen yet, but I'm sure that's the way it works. I run 2 of these because of this card, but I'll get to that later on. Right, Soul of Harvest. It's a 6/6 for 6. It has trample, important, but whenever a non-creature token enters the battlefield, you draw a card. This is a good way of building up. As I said, late game, you get this on, you start casting creatures, you're going to draw lots of cards and not run out. Now, one of the big cards of debate, Wild Pairing. I'm not sure about this. I've run this card in this deck, I've run this deck without this card, and it works okay, but I'm currently put it in. Now, whenever a creature enters a battlefield, if it's cast from your hand, that's the important thing, if it's cast from a hand, you may search your library for a creature with the same total power and toughness and put it onto the battlefield. If you do, shuffle your library. Now that's a reason why I run a lot of the creatures. It's a reason why I have 2 of these boys, because if I've got Wild Pairing out and I've only got one of these guys, these are the only 5/3s in the deck. So if I've got Wild Pairing out, I want to basically bring in this 5/3. And if I've not got it in the deck, it kind of makes Wild Pairing a little bit useless. It's also why I'm running a lot of the 2/2s as well, and the 3/3s. I'm running a few of the 2/2s, basically just to see how Wild Pairing does. I'm not sure about Wild Pairing. I'm leaving it in just now, but it could be taken out. Right, moving on to our big 3. Our Elderscale Worm. It's trample, 7/7, and as long as it's on the battlefield, your life total cannot be reduced to less than 7. Really, really good card. As I said, you can even get this out turn 4 if you drop your Natural Order. Great against the goblins. Stops them dead in their tracks sometimes. So that's a good card. We have our other worm, our Pilakaka worm. And when it enters a battlefield you gain 7 life. It's also got trample, but also when it dies you draw a card. And I've got 2 of them on, as yet again for the Wild Parent. So you've got Wild Parent turn 6 and you've got one of these in hand. Turn 7 you're going to be dropping 2 7/7s because of the Wild Parent. Hence why I'm running both of them. And then our final card, obviously Gigantomancer, makes any of your creatures a 7/7 till the end of the turn for 1 cost. Yet again, same with the Wild Parent, you drop a small creature, he comes on the battlefield. Natural Order as well, you can drop him down late on. Start swinging in for damage, because as soon as he enters a battlefield you can use this ability, because it doesn't tap him, it just powers everything up. So that's kind of why he's in the deck as well. So that's the kind of deck I'm running. Here's the cards I'm not running. The Beetlebound is a good card, I like it. It's a 1, basically it's a 1 cost, and you put it in the battlefield, you put the token as itself, and it's a 1/2. But it's just kind of there. I think if you were running the deck maybe slightly different, which I'll sort of explain as I go through the decks, you might want that in there, but currently I don't run it. I don't also run the Giant Growth. I mean, it's a trick card to make your creatures big, to maybe kill off another creature and everything. But I'd rather have a creature in my deck than that, to be honest with you. I'd rather have something in there that I can use. Maybe I should put one of these in, possibly. But currently I've not. As I said, if I'm running Wild Parent, you know, that's not good with Wild Parent. I want creatures out, so I'm not running either aim. I don't run the Taunting Elf. It can be handy, you know, when it swings in, and if a creature's able to block, it has to block this guy. But again, it's a slow card. You're not going to get it down straight away. If you've got 2 of them in your hand and they're starting a hand, you're kind of sad because it's a 0/1 and it's just going to sit there. So that's really why I don't run it. It's not aggro enough for me, if that makes sense. Moving on, the Ring of Calionia. A quick creature has trample, which is no. But it's, you know, it's like the rings are kind of they're just annoying. It doesn't give regenerate. It doesn't do anything else except give your green creatures +1 at the end of the turn. But you put it on a creature and the creature gets killed. If it gets killed, if you're playing a Being Dead, and there you go. There's a waste of 3 mana, and you've not done anything with it. That's why I don't run that card. Moving on. Awakener Druid, it's a human creature, so it's not an elf. That's one of the reasons I don't run it, because Wall Crier doesn't work with it. Also, you're putting one of your forests on the battlefield. I know it's a 4/5, which is kind of good, but it means that your mana is now on the battlefield and able to be picked off with kill spells or whatever, and I don't like that. I want to be keeping my mana. Mana is such a vital part of this deck that the last thing I do is I want it on the battlefield, so that's why I'm not running that. As I said, I run one of these cards already, I don't run the 2 of them. Mana Plasm's another interesting card, but more late game when you're casting your big spells is when this gets a boost, but it's only a 1/1, so you're casting it and you're hoping to cast something big and then swing in, but I don't think it's ever strong enough for turn 4 to be doing a lot of damage. I have seen it do quite well, but it's all conditional of how good your hand is, and if you've got maybe 1 creature cast and it's not doing enough damage for its purpose, and being a 1/1, bah. As I said, I run 2 of these guys. I don't run this dude, the 4-mage Elf Shaman. When he enters the battlefield, the creature gets +2/+2. Bit clunky, and he's a 3 cost, 2/2, so bleh. I'd rather have something else. Moving on to our 4 costs, I'm not running the Briar Park Alpha. I have run that a few times, it does work, but currently I just couldn't find a place for it in my decks. 4 cost, 3/3, it does give creatures +2, it does have flash, excuse me. But currently, can't find a place for it in the deck. As I said, I run one of the Erratic Portals. This card, the Herod Gnar, 4 cost, 2/2 again. Too many 4 cost low health ones. This gets +2/+2 to the end of turn for every creature enters the battlefield under your control, but 4 cost, meh. Momentous Fall, this is a bit of a clunky card. 4 cost, you sacrifice a creature, you get life and power and you get cards, but too clunky for me. And I really want to be sacrificing a big creature to really get the benefit of that. The Roaring Primadoc's a bit clunky as well. It's a 4 cost 4/4, but you have to return a creature back to your hand, and sometimes you just don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be putting creatures back to your hand, and if you've got this and you've got no power in the battlefield, it's awful. It really is a horrendous card. I remember the first time I played this version of Duels 2013 and someone put that card out and I read it and was like, what? How is that a 4 cost? It seems so negative, and okay, it does work, but sometimes, but I just think it can do more damage to you than it can do good sometimes, so that's why I don't run any of them. Acid Slime, as I said, I run 2 of those boys. I run one of the spiders, I run the 2 Thrags, This is another card that's really interesting to have run in past but currently taken out. Every time an opponent casts a spell, reveal the top deck of your card of your deck, and if it's a creature, put it on the battlefield. If you're in a strong position, or if you've got a couple of creatures on the battlefield and your opponent hasn't, and they're forced to cast things, then yes, they're maybe killing creatures, but you're putting another thing on the battlefield and another thing. But I'm currently not running it. This is one of the cards I would possibly take out for Wild Pairing and put that in instead. Primordial Sage, it's a 6 cost, 4/5. Whenever you cast a creature spell you can draw a card, but bit clunky, and it's a bit expensive for what it does. As I said, for your 6 costs you've got Soul Harvest, and I think that's a better card. It's a 6/6 with Trample. As I said, Wild Pairing, we don't run that. We don't run the enhancement, the Worm Coil thing. It's a 6 cost and it makes our creature big, and then the following turn you can sack it and put a 6/6 on the battlefield. But it's still a bit clunky, especially if you cast it, you've got no mana open, and then he kills the creature somehow with maybe a Doomblade or something, and then you've just lost that, so I'd rather not have it out. Gear's Revenge is a good, interesting card. It can't be countered, which is good. It's got haste. It can't be the target ability of any non-green spells or abilities from non-green sources, but it's only got 5 in the back. So, you know, it can be double blocked by some small creatures and taken out, and it doesn't even have Trample, so the 8 is kind of the... So that's kind of why I don't run that. As I said, I run one of the worms. Another interesting card I don't run, the Pterodoston. It's an 8 cost, 9/9. But say for example you had a weak creature out and you drop Natural Order, you could go and get this boy for turn 4, and in turn 4 you've got a 9/9. You could sack your 3 of your lands and put 3 creatures on, so you've got a 9 plus 3 other 9s, so you've got 18 power on the battlefield. The one problem with that one is you're sacking lands. And as I said, mana is really vital. If you're doing that, you're basically saying, I have to win with that card on that turn, because you're not going to survive. And the problem with it is it doesn't have Trample. So if he's got anything that, if he's got like maybe goblins, possibly, I mean this card would probably hurt goblins, but you can just throw tokens in front of it, and it just delays. And then if you've destroyed your own lands for that, then they can power up and eventually deal with it. So that's why I don't run that card. The times I've run it, it's only really ever worked for me once, and then the other times I've kind of been, so that's why I dropped it out. This card, another card, I know 9 cost is 9 cost, and you're putting 4 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, which is pretty cool. So put 4, so if you've got 4 creatures out, you're putting 4 on each of them, so they're giving them +4, or you can cycle it for 6. And when you cycle it for, you may put 4 1/1 counters on target creature. So it's one of those bizarre ones. I mean 9 cost and 6 cost, but yeah, again, I'd rather have a creature coming out for 6. On my 6th turn, I'd rather be dropping a creature like this dude, or maybe the Wild Pairing, for example, or maybe one of these dudes, instead of making creatures in the battlefield. What when you got no creatures in the battlefield? You'd just be like, oh. And the final card, this is a game-winning card sometimes. It's a 10 cost, and you can get to 10 lands in this deck, but it doesn't happen as often as you'd like. Anyway, I'll run through the thing. Exile the top of your library. If a permanent card, you may put it onto the battlefield. So if it's a permanent, that means lands, creatures, etc. They go onto the battlefield. If you do, repeat this process. If it's a enhancement, or maybe one of your beast tokens, that's it. It stops. So for example, you're on turn 10, you cast that, and the first card underneath it is a beast token. That is completely useless. That goes straight to your graveyard, and it's gained you nothing. So it can be risky. I mean, in the current format, I don't run too many non-enhancement creatures. As you can see, there's a lot of creatures in this deck. As you can see, 71% creatures, 22 other. I mean, the other ones are like Overrun, the Erratic Portal, the Natural's Order, and my Beast tokens, etc. But that's why I'm not running that. I have enjoyed running it and watched as I've got 40 cards in my deck, and I'm just like bang, 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 and my entire side just becomes absolutely huge with creatures. So it is a good card, but I'm currently not running it. So there we go, guys. That's a skim through the Ancient Wilds, what I'm running. Now I'll be posting some games up. I'll be posting them games up of it in this current format. As I said, I'll post the games I was playing in the old format against probably just the Goblin ones. Maybe the other one, because I did win one. That might be interesting to watch. But the Goblin ones are funny. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please give me a like if you have down the bottom. I know I'm going to start claiming likes. That would be really cool of you guys. And thanks for subscribing. Really appreciate it. This is Cawbeertv, signing out.